What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we have another 4-person pod featuring a lot of people playing blue. First, we have Foil playing Thryx, the Sudden Storm. This is a mono-blue version of a big green stompy deck where he's looking to cast big fatties in order to run over all of his opponents. Then we have Gavin playing the First Sliver, where he's looking to combo off and take his opponents out with some type of food chain combo. Next, we have Justin playing Mirko Vosk, the Mind Drinker. This is the other commander he uses to lead his middle deck next to Una, Queen of the Fae. With this deck, he's looking to pull off that rare win by killing his opponents with mill. Finally, we have Fog playing Muzzio, Visionary Architect. This is an artifact deck that looks to drop in high CMC artifacts in order to cheat in other powerful artifact creatures. Now we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Foil plays an island and passes. Gavin plays an Overgrown Tomb, paying the 2 life to bring it in untapped. He then pays 1 for a Noble Hierarch. Justin draws and plays a tapped Temple of Deceit, scrying 1 to the bottom of his library. Fog draws and plays an island, then taps 1 for his Soul Ring. Foil plays another island for turn, then taps 2 for a pair of Swiftfoot Boots. Gavin plays a Steam Vents, paying the 2 life. He then plays a Dockside Extortionist, getting 2 treasure tokens. Justin draws, plays a Swamp, and passes. Fog taps 3 for a Frantic Search, drawing 2, discarding 2, and untaps 1 island. Foil plays an island for turn and passes. Gavin plays a Misty Rainforest and pays 1 to crack it and go get a Watery Grave, paying the 2 life to bring it in untapped. He then swings his Docksided Fog for 2 damage. Justin plays an island for turn, then taps 3 for a Treasure Mage, going to get a Bolas' Citadel from his library. Fog draws and plays a Mox Opal before tapping 3 for a Cathodian. At the end of his turn, Foil casts his own Frantic Search, drawing 2, discarding 2, and untapping 3 islands. Foil plays another island for turn and passes. Gavin pays 1 to cast Worldly Tutor, going to get an Eternal Scourge from his library. He then puts the Eternal Scourge on top of his library. He then casts Plunge into Darkness, paying 20 life. In response, Foil casts Arcane Denial. In response, Gavin casts Dispel, targeting the Denial. Then Foil casts his own Dispel, targeting Gavin's Dispel. And finally, Gavin casts Pact of Negation, countering Foil's Dispel. Darkness finally resolves, and Gavin looks at the top 20 cards of his library, putting 1 into his hand and exiles the rest. Justin draws and then casts Tasha's Hideous Laughter, having each opponent exile cards from the library until they exile cards with a mana value of 20 or more. He then plays a Bajuka Bog and exiles Foil's graveyard. Fog draws and taps 4 for Patim Council of Innovation. He then swings his Cathodian Foil for 3 damage. Foil draws and plays an island, then passes once again. Gavin pays for his Pact on his upkeep, then draws for turn and plays a Mox Diamond. Justin taps 3 for a Court of Cunning, becoming the Monarch. Fog draws off his Padim trigger and draws for turn. He then plays a Buried Ruin for turn, then casts a Mystic Forge. Fog then swings 3 damage at Gavin. He then passes. At the end of Fog's turn, Foil flashes his commander Thryx. Foil draws for turn and casts a Shipbreaker Kraken. He then swings his commander Justin for 4 damage, becoming the Monarch. He then draws at the end of his turn. Gavin draws and taps out to cast his commander the First Sliver, cascading into a Deathrite Shaman. Justin has each opponent mill 2 cards on his upkeep. He then plays an island for turn, then taps 5 to cast a Nemesis of Reason. Fog draws off his Padim trigger and draws for turn. He then plays an island and pays 3 to cast his commander Muzzio, and another 2 for his Shimmer Mirror. Foil draws and goes to combat, swinging his commander Fog for 4 damage. He then casts a discounted Mahamati Jin. Gavin draws and casts Demonic Tutor, going to find a card from his library before casting a Wish Called Talisman. He then uses the Shaman to exile a land from his graveyard and uses the mana to activate the Talisman, giving the Talisman to Justin. Justin has each opponent mill 2 cards on his upkeep. He then casts a Mesmeric Orb, then activates the Talisman, giving it to Fog. Justin swings his nemesis at foil, who mills 10 cards, before double blocking the nemesis, killing him. Fog mills on his upkeep, then draws off his Padim trigger and draws return. He then plays an island and pays to activate Muzzio, looking at his top 4 cards and putting a Wormcoil Engine into play. He then pays a life and exiles the top card of his library. Foil mills a card on his upkeep, draws return, and plays an island. He then casts Scourge of Fleets, bouncing all his opponent's creatures with toughness less than 6 back to their owner's hands. After bouncing off most of the field, Foil goes to combat, swinging a creature at each of his opponents. Gavin mills returns and recasts his dockside, getting 7 treasures. He then recasts his Deathrite Shaman, Noble Hierarch, and a Carpet of Flowers. Justin has each opponent mill 2 cards in his upkeep. He then casts Into the Story, drawing 4 cards, then plays a swamp and passes. Fog mills on his upkeep, then draws for turn. He then plays an island for turn before casting Jalira, Master Polymorphist. Foil mills on his upkeep, then draws. He then casts Sphinx of the Final Word and equips his boots to him. Foil then decides Gavin has lived long enough and swings enough damage to take him out, while also swinging 1 creature piece at each of his opponents. Justin mills on his upkeep and has each opponent mill 2 cards. He then casts a Hedron Crab and plays a swamp, making Foil mill 3 more cards. Justin then casts a Kicked Maddening Cacophony, which Fog counters with a Stoic Rebuttal. Fog mills on his upkeep, then draws for turn. He then plays a Seed of the Synod and recasts his Wormcoil Engine. Fog then activates Jalira, sacrificing his Wormcoil Engine, giving him 2 Wormcoil tokens. He then reveals cards till he hits a Mirror Battlesphere, putting it into play, along with 4 Mirror tokens. Foil mills on his upkeep, then draws for turn. He then taps out to cast Lorthos the Tidemaker. Foil then equips Lorthos with the boots and goes to combat, swinging with enough damage to take Justin out of the game. Fog draws for turn, then casts Platinum Empyrean. He then goes to combat, swinging his Battlesphere and Wormcoil token with lifelink at Foil, taking him down to 22 life and gaining 3. Foil draws for turn and plays an island. He then casts Sublime Epiphany, bouncing the Empyrean back to Fog's hand, and creates a copy of the Scourge of Fleets, bouncing all of Fog's creatures back to his hand. He then swings out for the win. Foil, you got your first win of the year. How's it feel?
First win feels good, especially after the thrashing that we just suffered the last game. Feels good. I noticed my stats last year. I was focused a lot on, black decks, so I decided to branch out. I'm going to try different colors from now on. No mono black, or just maybe incidental. But yeah, I kind of built this in a fervor and one night, and I guess it got me there, so feels good.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.